I'm John Skinner. I'm going to spend just about a minute or so showing you the gear that we use to bucktail fluke, and then we'll go out on the water and just show the gear in action. Okay, so the most important thing is we use Spro bucktails. This is a 1 ounce bucktail. We generally use them in the 3/4 ounce to 1.5 ounce range, and this is tipped with a Berkeley Gulp Alive 3-inch minnow grub. It's a very effective lure. We're bucktailing in generally 15 to 30 feet of water, so to get a small lure like this and keep it near the bottom, we use light line. This is 15-pound test Tough Line XP, and between the braid and the bucktail we use 20-pound test fluorocarbon. I very much prefer reels with a flipping switch. This is a Quantum Accurist. When I push down on the thumb bar, line goes out. This controls the release of the line. This is very handy for one-handed control of depth.
Before we get into the fishing, I want to point out our use of a drift control sock. As you'll see in a minute, our jigging is done vertically. It's pretty much straight up and down. Now, if the drift speed is too fast, you'll keep letting out line in order to stay in contact with the bottom, and eventually your jig will scope out, which means it's out at too much of an angle from the boat. And a way to fight that is to slow down your drift speed, and that's done very effectively with a drift control sock. So we're putting that out now, and that will slow down our drift speed. Okay, welcome to mid-May on Long Island Sound. And to keep things realistic, what I'm going to do is run a 13-minute video clip, unedited, untouched, so it will be a little rough around the edges in a few places. But I'm doing that in order to give you a true view of what the pace of the action is. Now, the fishing audio is rather low because we're shooting through a waterproof enclosure, so I'll do voiceover in some places in order to point out the how-to information. If I don't explain something clearly, feel free to email me through the info link on fisherslog.com. Fisher's Log is my fishing trip logging and analysis program that runs on Windows and Macs. It's a very nice fishing log program, and any email sent to me or sent through that site will eventually get back to me. This video is in high def, so if your computer supports it, by all means watch it in full screen. Okay, so you'll see I measured that fish. We're in New York waters. These fluke need to be 21 inches to keep. Okay, and at the moment, this is my son Michael. We don't have any lines in the water, and I'm going to make sure I get him back in the water while I deal with the fish that's in the cooler that's inside the net.
Okay, so our second drift. First drift, how long was that first drift, Mike? 6 minutes? 7 minutes?
And you'll see there's already a fish in the box from our first drift. And there's the 1 ounce Spro with the 3-inch Gulp Alive minnow grub. Okay, you get a quick view of the jigging action, but Michael's hooked up right away again. We'll get to see the jigging in a second.
Sometimes they're coming straight up, you never know. It's definitely small. Alright.
Just a small fish. We'll put him back as fast as we can, get back in the water. That didn't take long to hook up. Bring up another one. This is another small fish. We're using 6-foot, fairly light bait casting rods. These are quantum rods, rated for 8 to 17 pound test line. Here's the jigging action, but another hook up right away. This is definitely a larger fish. This is one of the better fish we hooked this day. But he got away. And you'll see a bunch of sand eels he just spit up as he came to the top. These fish are feeding on sand eels, and he spit out a bunch. Mikey was hooked up at the same time, and we'll try to get his fish in the net. It's another nice one. When measuring these fish, it's important to keep their mouth closed. If the mouth is open, it's going to extend the fish by half an inch or so, but that's not a legal way to measure them. And we measure pretty carefully. And that one goes in the box too. Okay, in the background, you may have seen Michael reel up his lure with nothing on it, and the purpose of that was we're still drifting along at a pretty good pace here, even with the drift sock out. It has knocked it down from about 1.6 miles an hour down to about 1.2 or 1.3 miles an hour. But he reeled in because his lure had scoped out a little bit, and he reeled it in to drop it straight back down again. There's the jigging action. Very rapid. There's a couple of advantages of this. If there are any crabs in the area, they really don't bother you at that rate. Also, if you didn't have much of a drift, you'd still have some action on your lure just by the jigging action alone. Okay, so you see a missed fish there. I set the hook, I missed him. Now, if you were using a different bait, something other than the Berkeley gulp, I would be wondering if I lost my bait, but the gulp stays on the hook very nicely. We pretty much don't have to reel up the jig unless the drift is over or we have a fish on, or if the lure is scoped out. We don't have to worry too much about the bait being stolen. We get anywhere from 7 to 10 fish per bait. This is another good one. Okay, so we have a 10-minute YouTube limit here, so we're going to have to break this into 2 parts, and I hope you come back for part 2 because we have a lot more fluke bucktailing action in part 2 of this video.